to Black Men Speak. I'm your co-host, J.R. Stewart.
And this is your co-host, Tommy Duncan. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. So before we get started, let's give a shout out to Liquid for providing our theme music, which I know everyone enjoys. And we want to, if you're a first time viewer of the show, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and click on the notification button. Now, this show, because it's a juicy topic, should be worth at least 500 likes, guys. If we don't get 500 likes, we'll be very disappointed. So what do you say, Tom? Is it worth at least 500 likes?
Well, we're going to have to make it worth at least 500 likes.
Okay. And of course, guys, the chat line is open. If you want to send us a text message, it's open. We are screening, waiting for questions to come in. And the phone line will be open up in about 3 minutes. The phone number is 972-497-2280. If you wish to join the show, the line opens up at 9:05, I believe, p.m. So 5 minutes after, and it stays open till probably about 9:45. Even if we end the show at 9:30, we keep the line open, so you can still call in after the show if you want. Although it's better for us if you call in during the show. We want to hear from everyone.
Absolutely.
So, Tom, before we get started, any announcements, anything you want to share before we get into this juicy conversation?
No, man, let's go ahead and get right into the show. And of course, as things come up, we will deal with it accordingly.
Okay. But before we get started, I do want to say, here's my disclaimer.
Here we go.
That I don't want the women to feel as though we're just picking on the women. So the comments and the views expressed by yours truly are for both men and women. Men and women. But I think this got started because I made the comment last episode that I thought conservative women were better spouses. And Tommy thought that was something we should expand on. But I knew that in the few minutes we had left on the last show was not going to be enough time to do justice to the topic. So we're actually going to pick it up, the discussion this show, so we can fully discuss and so it can be fully vetted.
So Jimmy, what did the women get pissed off about? And I guess one thing we have to, when you start putting a name or a brand on people, some
Right.
people may respond in some kind of way, or they might feel some kind of way about that brand. And I'm just very curious as to what the women may have gotten upset about.
Well, I'm not, hopefully, nobody should be getting upset because the dating industry, the relationship industry, is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And you're getting ready to get the inside information on how to find happiness with a person that will give you your best chance of succeeding in life for free. All you have to do is tune in and watch the show and listen to me.
Well, Jimmy, I would affectionately disagree with you because I think when it comes to most things, even though it may not cost you anything financially, it may cost you something in terms of some time, some discipline, and effort, and that ain't quite free. Even though you may not have to swipe your credit card in order to do that, but it takes a lot of work, man, to build
It takes
healthy
a lot of work
relationships.
anyway. I mean,
I know that,
where are you going to
but
get a great relationship for free with no time invested?
Well, there is. I don't believe that there is a free per se. Now, maybe they don't have to swipe their credit card, but man, if the best things were free, man, I think everybody would have it.
Tom, this is probably one of the closest thing to sliced bread that you're going to get in life.
Okay.
And I can say that with complete confidence. So let me give a little background. So when I say the conservative movement, I'm
let's
not
get some
necessarily talking about the
context.
political aspect of the conservative movement. I'm talking about the group of people that are pro-children, that fight for the unborn, want to see children get educated by advocating for school choice and competing competition in the school system. Strong godly values, so men and women of God. Strong family values, people who actually want to come together and start families. You know, and also people who accept personal responsibility for their choices. So those are the people that I call my conservative family. And I find these people to be the most loving, the most respectful, the kindest people you ever want to meet in your life. And they're not caught up in color. Conversation about color never even come up. No one even cares. Because when people pull out their phones and start showing the images of their grandchildren, and about 25 to 30% of these people have mixed race grandchildren, color is not an issue for them because their children are married to someone of the opposite race. So if you want a group of people who, you know, probably the least racist, the least prejudiced, and who don't give a rat's ass about color, but care about family, about kids, about personal responsibility, they live up to their word. I mean, these are the kind of people that you want to hang around with, and certainly these are the kind of people that you want to vet for spouses.
So, so you talk about pro-children, not particularly pro-life, but pro-children, school vouchers,
And
family
unborn,
values,
that's a pro-lifer.
godly values. And now when you say pro-life, you got to be pro-life cradle to grave. That means you can't just say we're going to save the children but kill the adults.
Tom, killing the adults is how you save people.
If you're pro-life, you're pro-life. You have to be pro everybody's life. You can't discriminate.
Sure, we can.
If you're no, not if you're
No,
pro-life.
we don't. People who are murderers and child rapists, people who've done really heinous crimes. I mean, you only get the death sentence for doing a heinous crime, not just a crime. It has to be a really bad crime. We don't care about those people's lives.
But that depends on the economics of the situation.
No economics. We keep trying to bring money to the situation.
Jimmy,
we know a heinous crime and you are found guilty and put on death row. We do not care. We do not give a rat's ass or two shits about your life. If the state wants to execute you, go ahead and execute. We are not going to cry one tear over a murderer or a rapist or child pedophile, a person who's a pedophile. These type people, we're not valuing their lives. If you turn your life around, turn over to God, and ask for some forgiveness, maybe if you've redeemed yourself, you know, then maybe your life is worth something at that point. But just to say that we care about your life without you redeeming yourself, no.
So what you're saying is you're pro-life with some exceptions then, right?
I'm saying that the child was inside the womb hadn't committed a crime against anybody.
Okay, well then that's pro-child then, not pro-life. Because if you're pro-life, you're pro-life. That means everybody's life, not just certain people.
I see how you're trying to frame this, but however you want to qualify it, I'm telling you, we are for the unborn, for protecting the unborn, and we're for children. Okay. And as far as adults who make really bad decisions,
really
do bad things,
it's not
we're not fighting to save their lives, Tom.
Okay,
that's for another group.
Gotcha. So it's really more anti-abortion then, right?
It's hard to be for the unborn and be for abortion. That would be correct.
Well, yes. So there's anti-abortion because if you're pro-life, you're pro everybody's life.
Well, no, Tom, we're not pro everybody's life. I can be for the NBA and not like everybody in the NBA.
But if you're pro NBA, you're pro NBA. But if we're talking about life and death, either you're pro-life or you're pro-life. But anti-abortion is kind of a caveat because I get your point, and I don't disagree with you that you are protecting those people or children who are defenseless. Because even if you talk about people who are defenseless, that might be other categories. Because if you think of folks who have weapons versus folks who don't have weapons, people who don't have weapons might be defenseless against people who do have weapons. So anti-abortion, I definitely get, but pro-life is pro-life. Either you're pro-life or you're not, but that has to be everybody's life.
We are pro-life, Tommy, for the family. We're pro-life for people who are decent and people who try to do the right thing in life. People who go through life not victimizing others, who accept personal responsibility, who raise their children, who abide by the rules. These are the people, yes, we're pro-life for all of those people and the unborn who are defenseless and they need somebody to defend them. For people who are adults who make conscious decisions to victimize others, no, we do not care about their life. So if you want to qualify by saying that we're, mixed pro-life, that'd be fine.
Okay, there we go. Mixed pro-life. That would make sense. But anyway, let's get back to the point. We were talking about conservative. I guess conservative women are trying to find a good mate, right?
Well, let's back up. There are women who are trying to find a good man, and they may have some conservative values, but they haven't joined the conservative family. And what I mean by that is, you may go to church and be a godly woman. Okay, that's good. That's one aspect.
Hey, Jimmy. Okay, you were breaking up there.
Okay, you may go to church. You may be a godly woman. So that's one aspect. That's one element. Okay. But the circle that you hang out in, you're not around other conservative men and women to embrace all of the values. So if you pair up with someone, if you want to be married and have a family and raise your children the right way, this is your aim in life. But then you're in a circle around men who don't care about children, who don't want to get married, and this is who you're dating and spending your time with, then you may have some conservative values, but you're certainly not giving yourself a chance to pair up and partner with a conservative man or a woman, depending on what you're looking for, because you're in the wrong circle. To be in the family, you need to be fully yoked. You need to be around people who feel the way you feel. If you're married, you don't go out with single people because you're not living that life anymore. So if you're if you're a woman looking for a good man to partner, to settle down with, to raise your children the right way, a man that you know is going to be responsible, going to make sure the bills are paid and go to work every day, not going to quit his job over some nonsense, leave his family in peril. You don't want those kind of men. There are plenty of those men out there. And if you're dating those kind of men and hoping that you're going to have success in life, there's a good chance you're going to be disappointed. But if you hang around, if you spend your time in conservative circles around other conservatives and meet a conservative man, you have a much better chance, not a guarantee, but you have a much better chance of it working out than you parting over the non-conservative.
So when you say conservative, you say someone who is godly. We can define godly as different things. You say someone who works, someone who's willing to make sure that the lights are kept on, right?
A person who's responsible.
Okay, person who's responsible. And we're talking about financially responsible. Otherwise, they're willing to pay the bills, make sure that the lights stay on.
Well, they accept responsibility for their choices. And accepting personal responsibility spills over into finances. It spills over into credit management. It spills over into savings and investing, how you contribute to your IRA, your 401k to protect your longevity. It spills over into all those categories. But at the very core, it's a person who accepts personal responsibility for their choices. They're not a victim in life. If a person does not accept personal responsibility and is always blaming someone else for their decisions and the fact that their decisions didn't work out, well, if they're being irresponsible with their life, chances are they're going to be irresponsible with the bills, with the finances, with the savings, with the investment, and everything else. These things have a ripple effect. They're not just in a silo that you think you can fix with your love and show the person how to do it the right way. It doesn't work that way. I wish it did.
I think, Jimmy, whether that's conservative or not, that's just the definition of being responsible and accountable.
Thank you. It is. It's common sense.
I don't think you have to brand it being conservative. That's just being responsible
I'm branding it because you have to have a way to identify like-minded people
and being responsible and being accountable.
Tom, you have to have a way to classify like-minded people. So how do you know if this is the person? Because a lot of times you don't talk about these things when you're dating. You don't talk about credit and savings, how much money you have in the bank, and how responsible you are. You assume these things. But you know what? If you're in conservative circles around people who advocate this lifestyle, who talk about it openly, who expect other people to behave the same way, to be responsible, when it comes to their children and the way they manage their property, I'm not calling on anyone else to come pay my bills or to accept responsibility for my household. I accept responsibility for that. It's not the government's responsibility to put food on my table. I accept responsibility for that. And for educating my children, it's not the school system's responsibility to educate my child. Ultimately, I'm responsible for that. The school is just a tool that I use to get there. But ultimately, if the school doesn't get the job done, I'm not sitting around there playing victim, talking about, well, they did a horrible job in educating my child. No, I did a horrible job because ultimately it was my responsibility. So what I'm saying is that when you accept responsibility for the choices you make in life, it spills over to other categories. And that's the kind of people that you want to be around who are vocal about accepting responsibility. That way you don't have to necessarily guess and whether this is going to be a responsible person or not, and hope that they're going to be a responsible person. Simply because you met them in church.
So if we're talking to women and we are encouraging them to find a man or trying to give them some help to find a man who is responsible, to find a man who is accountable, who is going to take responsibility for their decisions, who is going to be accountable for the things that they do, everybody's not in the same place. So let's say, we're in Dallas per se. That's going to be different. That's going to be different than, let's say, if I'm in Des Moines, Iowa, or let's say we're in Billings, Montana. And so you don't have access to all the same resources geographically. So if we're looking at an independent woman or a group of women who are looking for these types of men, let's kind of give them some advice, because everybody may not have access to the same church environment or the same family environment, or depending on their career and those types of things, that they may not have immediate access to the same resources in terms of people resources. Let's talk a little bit about how you approach this, or more importantly, when you meet someone, how do you vet this so that you can start making faster work as to whether you think you're going down the right road or not?
Okay, Tom, so I would imagine that everywhere in America, there are conservative clubs, especially women clubs. There are more conservative women clubs in America than any other club I think of. From the Heritage Group to various, women. I mean, I can't think of all of them, but there are tons of them, hundreds of them.
So the Heritage Group is a women's only group?
There is a Heritage Club for women, yes.
Oh, so there's a segment for women?
No, there's a group called themselves the Heritage Club. That is, they allow men to join, but they are primarily a woman's group. And there are others. But like I said, there are tons of them. So find one. Join. Start making friends with other people who share the values that you want in life. Meet the men that associate with these clubs and go to the functions that they sponsor. And if you have to date someone from one of those pools. Date someone from one of those circles, and you'll have a much better chance. Not a guarantee, but a better chance. Because chances are the men that are hanging out in those circles around those type women share those type values. And the women there have a very high expectation for the men. They expect them to be alpha men. They expect them to lead, to be responsible. They're not organizations that make excuses for weak men, like some other places. So you don't want to be someplace where they're making excuses for sorriness. You don't want to be one of those women that make excuses for sorriness. There's nothing wrong with setting the bar high and having high expectation for the man that you invite into your life. And I'm just saying you increase your chances of finding that person in the right circle.
Jimmy, I think you bring up a very good point in terms of building alliances around people of similar values or the values that you believe are important to you. Because what we do have to acknowledge is that everybody is not where they want to be. And so let's say that you didn't grow up in a family environment that at a foundation level taught you certain types of values. It could be in the way that you carry yourself, in the way that you dress, in the way that you think, those types of things, and you want to improve yourself. It's just like an education process when you're thinking about going to college or to a vocational school or even to the military to develop certain skills. And so, I think you're on the right track in terms of aligning yourself with people who espouse or who walk certain values as a kind of what we call in the corporate world an individual development plan. But I think as a part of that, Jimmy, one of the things that we have to be very cognizant of. And one of the things that, earlier in life, I remember talking to certain people is that if you really want to find a certain type of person, you have to be a certain type of person. But I think what comes with that is some homework, which is learning how to be self-aware, taking a very honest, sometimes brutal assessment, inventory of your strengths and your weaknesses, the areas that you're not so good at, the areas that you improve upon, and figuring out how you close the gaps. Because the problem is sometimes is there's an old saying that you attract who you are. And so if you're attracting a certain type of people, sometimes that might be because you are giving off that, because that's kind of the space you're in right there. So we have to be self-aware. We have to take inventory. We have to do self-analysis. And we really have to be open to honest, sometimes brutal feedback in order for us to improve, to get to the place where we want to be, to attract the type of person that we want to have.
Well, Tom, that is the honest, brutal way to get there. Another way to get there is through peer pressure. Kids go through it all the time. They become who their peers are. They emulate their peers. They take on the values and the attitudes of their peers. That may not be who they were raised to be. That may not be their true personality, but it becomes who they are if they hang around these peers long enough. So sometimes just by changing your circle, you may not be the most responsible person. But if you hang around responsible people, you make friends with responsible people, they will give you feedback. When you say, you know what, I have a choice. I can put 10% of my earnings in savings, or I can, roll the dice, go on a shopping spree, and when I get my next paycheck, I may be a little late paying my bills, but at least I have the shoes that I want. Well, if you were friends with a responsible person, they may tell you, hey, you know what, that may not be the best plan. The best plan may be to continue to put your 10% aside and save and then pay your bills on time. And then when you get enough money where you've saved up, you can go afford a shopping spree, do it then. I mean, the shoes will still be there, the clothes will still be there. So what I'm saying is that you'll get some feedback, maybe not in a brutal way, where someone just calls you out, or you have to do it yourself, which you may not be able to do. Some people just can't assess themselves. They're not that honest with themselves because they're in denial about it. But sometimes a subtle feedback from your friends whose opinions that you value may go a long way.
Jimmy, I think that's actually a very interesting point, because one thing we do know is that, we cannot pick our family, but our friends we can. And the reality of it is we should not pick friends who are exactly like us or have all the same ideas or values or beliefs, because that's the only thing that's going to stretch us. That's the only thing that is going to allow us to learn. And quite frankly, I don't think we can afford to have friends who are only like us, because we'll never grow. The reality of it is, if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to find some more groups to be in.
Tom, I am guilty of that most times in most settings, but there's nothing I can do about that.
You're such an humble guy, Jimmy. I just can't.
I'm just being honest, Tom. I find myself in that predicament quite often, but there's not a whole lot I can do about that.
Well, Jimmy, so you're trying to tell me that you're smart at practically everything, and you can't find any groups where you're not the smartest person and don't know the most.
Not necessarily the smartest, Tom, in every circle, but I do pride myself that if I'm around a group of lawyers, I know enough about the law and group law and the history jurisprudence to be able to have intelligent conversations with them. If I'm around a bunch of doctors, I can do the same. Accountants, I can do the same. Physicists, chemists, cryptologists, you name it, and I can hold my own in those conversations. I may not necessarily be the subject matter expert that a person who's trained all their life for it, but I am very well versed in a lot of different things, and I can hold my own in just about any conversation. Even a brain surgeon, we can sit there and talk about synaptic connections and some of the intricacies of brain surgery. Like I said, he may be the expert, but at least I can conduct an intelligent conversation with that person. And that's across the field in a lot of different areas. So I may not be the smartest in any one particular category, but I do pride myself on probably being the most knowledgeable
so,
on a
so,
variety
so,
of different things.
so what you're not saying, Jimmy, is that you're the smartest in every room, but you're at least knowledgeable enough to have a conversation. That's a different thing than saying that, you know what, you're the smartest in every freaking group or every community that you're in, but you're at least conversational, right?
I
There's nothing
think
wrong with
I
that.
think that makes me the smartest, Tom, in just about every room, in every setting.
Okay, Jimmy.
So
Well,
that's
if
just me
nothing,
being me. But anyway,
if
back
nothing
to
else, we
the
have to have a conversation.
spouses.
All right, that's fine.
Back to your desire to find a spouse that you can settle down with, start a family with, have the kind of life, even if you don't want children, just have the kind of life that is a little less worrisome and stressful, knowing that you're with someone who wants the same things in life that you want, who plan for your long-term security. Because when women are very security conscious, and
True.
why women partner up with men who don't think about their long-term future is beyond me. You know,
So, so wait. You brought up a very good point. If that is the case, if women are very secure, and I've never met a woman, I can't recall, even women who are financially well off, who are doing well professionally, that does not mean that they're not security conscious. They may not need a
yes.
man's money, but that does not mean that they're not security conscious. So the question would be, what are the top at least three questions that you need to be asking a man? Maybe not on the first or second date, but if you're really serious, what are at least the top three questions you need to be asking or
I would
having a
certainly ask him
conversation?
about his. One, is he a conservative? And
But
if
what
he
does
said,
that mean?
and if he
That
says
that can mean
yes,
many things.
well, then that's the follow-up question. You would
But
ask
Jimmy,
him, identify three conservative values that you have. If he says yes, I'm a conservative because he believes in his mind, then ask him, what three conservative values do you have? And give him a chance to defend his conservatism. So you can find out fairly right away what he believes. And then, if you espouse certain things, Tom, then you need to be man enough to live up to it. And for a woman, you let the man know. Okay, you said that you accept personal responsibility for your choices. Well, if you and I were to come together, I would expect for you to live your life that way. Not blame others, not be a victim, because I'm not trying to pair with a victim. I don't want a man telling my woe is me and Mr. Charlie got me down and nobody's going to let me up and what other people are not letting me do. Who wants that? I want a man who's lead, who's bold, who's out front, trying to get things done and make things happen, and not afraid to take on the world for me and possibly our kids. So I would expect you, if you say I accept personal responsibility and I'm a leader, I expect you to live that way. And when you don't be surprised if I have to cut you loose because you lied to me. And that's the other thing, strength of character. If you're an honest person and you don't have anything to hide to be ashamed of for who you are, then you don't have to lie and cover up anything. You don't have to tell a woman how great you are if you really aren't that great. I mean, if you're really a mediocre man, you're better off saying, I'm a mediocre man. I'm a middle of the road. I'm not going to be really out there leading the pack. I'm not behind the pack. I'm just going to be in the middle of the pack following the herd. That's just who I am. And that way, at least she can make an honest decision about whether she wants to be with you or not. But if you're telling her you're an alpha male, you're out front, and you're doing all these great things, and then she pair up with you, and she don't see that from you, she's going to become very disappointed in you at some point. And when a woman becomes disappointed in a guy, she may not necessarily leave him, but I can tell you right now, Tom, the quality of life you're going to have with her diminishes because she does not value you and look up to you the way she did when she thought you were this one super great guy that was going to be in her life and her protector and someone that she could count on through thick and thin. Now she's starting to find out that, hey, you're just another average wimp guy.
Jimmy, I think you bring up some very interesting points. I would probably be a little bit, I mean, for the women, because women, they're very intuitive and they read things very well. And so I would be a little bit more prescriptive in some of the questions that I would ask. And I would probably ask a few questions. If I were a woman, and I'm coming from a man's point of view, so if I had a younger sister or a daughter or something like that, and she's young, she's serious, and she's kind of, she ultimately wants a partner in her life. One of the first questions I would ask is, number one, Are you family oriented? That's a very simple question.
He
You
says
know,
yes.
okay, and then the question is, okay, in the case, do you want to be married?
He says
And I mean,
someday yes.
and so okay, that's good. I mean, and not particularly in this order. If you are family oriented, if you do want to be married, what does being a good husband mean to you? Then shut up.
Oh, it just means taking care of you, being responsible, taking care of my family, you know, making sure everybody has what they need. I'm gonna go to work every day. I'm gonna look out for mine.
And so, if that is the case, and if you're at the very early end of that relationship, then you observe, because at the end of the day, a person could tell you anything, but
That is
when it
true,
comes to
Tom.
it, when it comes to a man, it's not what he says, but what he
That's
does.
correct. It's what he does.
If a man tells you that he loves you, but he doesn't show you, then quite frankly, what he says doesn't really matter. And so what you do is you set the tone very early. If you're really interested in getting married, having children, having a family, then you set the bar early and up front, and then you observe. You observe what he does. If you want a man who is financially responsible, then you ask, what is your philosophy on money? What is your philosophy on investing?
And Tom,
Very broad
he can
terms come
lie
down
to
to.
you. He can tell you how he's invested in his 401k, his IRAs.
Mhm.
He has municipal bonds, tax-free bonds. Oh, he's doing it right.
Mhm.
The reason I don't have money to take you out and spend on you all the time because I put 90% of my money in investments. That's where all my money goes. But I'm setting us up for a rainy day for the future. Men lie, Tom.
Well,
And
I agree with
after
that. And
and
the
after and
reality,
after a woman's been lied to several times and she's made some horrific choices in life, guess what? She becomes she begins to second guess herself, or she starts thinking that all men are like this, and that I just have to choose from the less bad. And what I'm saying to you is that as long as you're in that circle with men who are going to lie to you or deceive you, and the men who are very good at picking up women are very good at deceiving women. They lie all the time. You can't trust a word that comes out of their mouth. And as
so
soon as you
Jimmy,
discover that they're a liar, they move on to the next woman because now you've exposed them. What I'm
but
saying is
Jimmy,
that you want to be in a
this
circle where men don't have to lie about who they are.
I
That
understand that,
helps
Jimmy,
you.
but Jimmy, my point is this: if you're good at lying and you're good at what you're doing, that could be infiltrated into any group, including a conservative group as well. And so the reality of it is, it comes down to an individual relationship
Pause
with
for a
a
second,
person,
Tom.
not a group. Sure.
Okay, pause for a second. I
Okay.
have, after I was divorced, I spent years studying the players, going to the club, finding the guys who were the most successful at picking up women. Always walked out of the club with somebody. And these are the guys I befriended, would pick their brains, ask them questions, and study their behavior. And so I can spot the players now. I know exactly what to look for. I even emulated that life for a while myself. And here's what I can honestly tell you. I have yet to see any players at any conservative function I've ever gone to. Now, I'm not saying that you don't have some in there that are trying to be players, that want to be players, that may not be the most honest and most trustworthy, but that is not the norm. Because people, when they spot a phony, they spot someone who's lying to them, they don't want to be around you anymore. You get ostracized. The word spreads quickly that, hey, that Jimmy guy, that Tommy guy, boy, he came across as really nice guys, and we thought they was one of us, and come to find out X, Y, Z. So that
Okay,
takes care
Jimmy.
of itself.
That's what I did. But I would say this:
But when you're
if
at
you're
the
talking about,
club, who warned you
but
about
wait
the
a second,
players
wait,
at the
but
club, Tom?
time out, Jimmy. But this is my thing. If you're a Rolling Stone, you don't stay any place for too long. It's not like you have to spend a lifetime there. The reality of it is, you have a specific goal in mind, and a player, for instance, in this case, is going to go to where the women are. Okay, someone who's after some game is going to go to where the game is, and so whether it's a conservative group, whether it's the church, whether it's a college campus or whatever it is, you're gonna go to where the good hunting is.
Tom,
All
that
that
is
being said,
true.
all that being said is that when you're talking to a woman and you're giving her some counsel, I can't disagree with you in terms of aligning with groups that are similar in terms of values. But when it comes down to individual vetting, it comes down to a one-to-one relationship and a
It
individual to
does to some
individual
degree,
experience.
Tom.
And so you have to you will not be saved by going to a specific group. As a woman,
No,
even
Tom,
you have to
I
take the
think I
steps to go.
said early on there are no guarantees. I think I
Right.
said that. I said, but you increase your chances, is the point that I'm making. You go to church, and I'll show you just how gullible church women are. I go into a church and stand up when they used to have visitors introduce themselves. Here is my line. My name is Jimmy Stewart. I'm a good Christian brother looking for a good Christian woman. And the women be lined up after church with phone numbers and dinner invitations. They don't know me from Adam. I could be a serial killer. But what I'm saying is that when you're around other conservative women, because you hanging out in that circle, women pass on information. They talk. They share the things that they know and they learned to other women. And if you're not sure about a guy, trust me, you'll have 10 or 15 of your conservative sisters who will help you in the vetting process. When you go to the club, you don't have other women helping you vet the players in there. When you're at church and a guy stands up and I'm a good Christian man and I'm just looking for a good Christian woman to settle down with, there are no other Christian women in there to vet that guy to tell you, hey, no, he's a wolf in sheep clothing here. You need to watch out for that one. What I'm saying is that in the right circles around people who care about you, one, you can learn from them, you get feedback from them, and two, they can help you in this whole process of finding the right person if you seek their help, if you're open to it. Now, if you're not open to it, you're a lone wolf, then do your own thing. But sometimes you may need a little help in this process. And to be in a circle where men know that women are watching them and analyzing them and expect them to do the right thing, it is hard to fake the funk for that long, Tom. So a couple of months, yeah, I can play the role for a few months. A few years becomes a little more difficult. And so I'm saying join the right circles, hang out in these circles, not for a few months, do a stick and move kind of a deal. I mean, you join it for life, just like you join your church for life. And over time, you will meet men and women coming into these circles who share your values, who you'll see someone who takes an interest in you, that you take an interest in them, and then you guys can start dating. But at least you have a better foundation with that person than you do with just some character off the street that you met, or some guy that stood up in church that you think is a good guy because he's in church.
Well, I will say this: that is definitely a strategy you can use,
A
and I
strategy,
guess
that's correct.
it is a strategy that you can use. And quite frankly, I can say it's probably a good one as long as the people around you who know you very well can really put an objective view on someone who you are potentially looking at. And at the end of the day, and I think at the foundation level, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, if you have a good family foundation, mother, father, brothers, sisters who know you, who've known you, since you were a child, who know you better than anybody else, they've been in relationships, they've been in marriage, and especially old folks who've been around, who've seen a lot, those are folks who've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. That is probably one of the biggest assets that you have is your immediate family, as long as you have a good, strong family foundation, and obviously good friends who've known you, who know your strengths, who know your weaknesses, who know your blind spots. And so I think aligning yourself with groups that have similar values, to your point, but then also, if it gets to a point where you're trying to get serious with someone, you need to have folks who are not emotionally tied to it taking a look at it as well, because just like women can vet women extremely easily, men can vet other men very easily. And at the end of the day, when you're talking about your life, your future children potentially, you know what, making a poor decision or making an uninformed decision or making an emotional decision can set you back significantly for several years. So
No, that is
I would
true.
say that, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And I would also add to that, Tom, is that when you bring the person that you think you're serious about around friends and family, that used to happen. Your family used to help you in the vetting process,
Yes,
but
sir.
that doesn't happen anymore. Young folks
No.
don't bring the guy that they're dating or the girl that they're dating around family anymore, and then families, don't give feedback like they used to. And the
Yeah,
ones who do,
and Jimmy, they'll say,
sometimes
"Hey, this is
considered
my
busybodies.
fiance," and they don't even know him.
Right. You just walk up one day and yeah, this is my fiance, and this is the first time you met the young man or the young lady. And what I'm saying is that, generally in most conservative circles, if you have a conservative family, a group of people that's your conservative family, they care enough about you to speak up. They're going to tell you, that young man that you brought around, I spoke to him for a little while, and, this is the vibe that I got. He doesn't seem like he has it all together, so you may want to think twice about getting too serious about him. You want people to give you that kind of feedback, to give you something to think about. Not that they're picking someone for you. What I'm saying is that I may be able to fool you, but if I have 20 people who are at some point during the course of a night or course over a period of time that I'm engaging with, it's gonna be hard to fool everyone. And at some point, my guard's gonna come down. At some point, I'm gonna say something or do something that alerts someone to who I really am, and the cat's gonna be out of the bag at that point. But
Yeah,
if you have someone that's going through a vetting process with your friends and family, and over a period of time, if he was a good guy on day one, and a year and a half later he's still a good guy, and you guys are thinking about getting married, then chances are he may be okay. You may have a fighting chance with him. But if he
and
was a
yeah,
good guy on day one, 6 months later, boy, that nigga ain't worth shit. I knew he was a fool, and I try to tell you, and then you go and get married to him, and something goes awry. Then all people are gonna say is, "Well, why are you coming to me? We try to tell you it wasn't good for you, but you wouldn't listen to us." See, so you don't want to have those kind of conversations when you're a young person struggling to try to make things work, and the person you paired up with that you thought was a good guy ended up being a creep.
gotcha. And just so you'll know, Jimmy, we're right at about a quarter until the hour, so I know we've got to
Yeah,
wrap
we're
up
we're, we're
pretty soon.
6 minutes over, so let's go ahead and wrap up. I will, since I did a lot of the talking time, I'll go ahead and give you the true last word and let you close out.
It's funny how that works out, Jimmy. Anyway, no, good show, good conversation today. I hope that those who were listening in learned something today. Didn't have any callers today. I don't know, Jimmy, if we had anyone who chatted or texted in today, but we definitely hope that you learned something. Again, Jimmy and I, speak the minds of many brothers who are out there, and we don't always have the same philosophies, when it comes to everything, but our end game is going to be pretty much the same. And
Yes.
so we hope that you guys have enjoyed the show. We are open to your ideas. If you have not, please make sure that you like us. Please make sure that you subscribe to Black Men Speak, so you can continue to chime in every Wednesday, 9 o'clock
Okay.
p.m. Central Time. And
Yes.
we will close out with that. We want to thank you very much. Continue to fight the good fight, and we will